So today I'm going to show you guys an awesome plugin called VirtualRig Studio Pro, and we're going to create some awesome motion blur with this plugin. So hi guys, welcome back to a new Photoshop tutorial. My name is Manny and you can still find me on Twitter or Facebook under Manny Photo or Manny Photography. Today also I want to announce a very awesome plugin. We're going to work with a plugin called Virtual Studio or VirtualRig Studio Pro. You can also find it under virtualrig-studio.com, and it's an awesome plugin to create some really epic motion and blurring effects on your car shots. So yeah, let's also discuss this plugin in depth in the tutorial. Here we go. Okay, so before we start with VirtualRig, I do want to mention and point out just a few simple things. So let me also run you guys quickly through my PSD file here. So basically this is our normal base plate, just our normal background shot. Then as well I took this into VirtualRig software and just created a nice blurring effect here. Then as well a few adjustments just for my background. Then we've added a shadow, the car, and as well lastly a few more adjustments. This is actually a main folder here with just lightning flares, as well a little bit of contrast, and as well color corrections and all the rest that we needed to add. So what I want to point out now is when you go on a shooting, bear in mind to take 2 shots. I normally do that and it helps me way more and saves also on time. I normally take 1 shot just with the street without the car, so I can take this into VirtualRig software and just create a nice blurring effect, and then as well I have another shot as reference, first of all for the car and second of all for the shadow, in case you're shooting with that kind of sunlight now having a shadow. Now if you do this just as one plate like you're seeing now, this is kind of complicated, or it's going to get a little bit harder in VirtualRig, because in VirtualRig the car and the shadow are also blurring, so you need to go back into Photoshop, create an extra mask and mask all these edges out again, which will take you again more time and it's difficult. So what I would prefer is rather go and on the shooting just drive the car away, take another quick shot just from your background just for the street. So this is what we do normally and it helps me and saves on time. Okay, so let's also now go into VirtualRig and create a little bit of a blurring effect here. Before I also start with VirtualRig, this image straight out of the camera, just into Camera Raw, a few adjustments just on light control, shadows, and a little bit on the shadows here, a bit on contrast and temperature as well. That's all that I've adjusted, nothing else. Then I've saved it on my desktop, as you guys can see over here. So just a plain shot on the desktop as a JPEG, full quality, and I'm going to take that now into VirtualRig Studio Pro. So VirtualRig Studio Pro is opening, and I can simply just drag the image into VirtualRig Studio and it will directly open in that software. As you guys can see now, it's opening the image right into the software. We already have it open here, and on the left hand side in the top corner you guys will see a few options and tools to work with. So the first one, again, just file save and your directory. Then as well going back and forth, if you have done something and you want to go undo that, you can do it here at the top. Then as well a few settings here just for your image settings, your render settings, and as well to render. Then as well you got the hand tool, zoom in and out and zoom completely, and obviously all the vectors and lines, the blur, to create some nice lines and blurring effect here. As well also a selection tool to select all your lines that you've already created, and here at the end a few more options to delete and set stuff to 0 on your lines, which we're going to work now in the tutorial. Okay, so let's get started now right away. As you guys can see, the street is obviously not straight and we have a bit of a curve. So my idea now was to actually create a line, basically a blurring effect that goes from here all the way around and kind of makes a little bit of a curve. As well over here also having a curve effect, and as well here at the top just more straight curve effect. Now I don't want to adjust too much the background here, because I think if the car is driving away here, this will kind of still be blurred our foreground, but the background is so far away on the shot that it doesn't suit, it won't look good if it's also blurred. So I'm going to put some points and markers here that this will not be blurred and not affected. Alright, so let's also get started with that. First of all, I'm going to just take the blurrer tool here at the top. I'm just going to create quickly a straight line to show you guys some points. First of all, you can just create a long line here, a blurrer line. And on this blur line, you'll see a few simple dots, like this little one over here, a center dot, and this dot over here. Now first of all, the arrows also shows in which direction the blurrer tool goes. So obviously it's going in this direction. And as well, I can now with hold Alt and just select this blurrer line, and I can simply rotate or actually move it and bend this line a little bit. So I can bend it into the direction I want to. Then as well, at the top here, you've got this little blurrer point here, so I can hold Alt and move this blurrer point up as well, meaning that this will increase the blurring effect or decrease the blurring effect. So if I'm going to take it all the way up, it's going to just blur very short here at the front and almost no blurring. If I'm going to take this slider all the way, it's also going to stop and just be a slower blurring effect. If I'm going to take it a little bit further, it's going to be a bit quicker here in the front. But more of that while we work with it, and then we can see our end results. Okay, I'm also going to go back to the selection tool, just selecting this arrow, the blurring here, and we can simply delete that again. Let me just select all of it. We can hit the backspace or just simply here at the top to delete that. Okay, so let's also now just work with a normal blurrer, and I'm simply going to take a line now and create a few lines here just to a normal blurring effect. Now you also want to kind of create a blurring effect from where the car is coming or going to. So in my case now, I'm going to go, everything comes from here and should be blurred from here all the way around. I'm going to hold Alt now and also select this little point over here and just create a nice round blurring effect, or like a round blurring line here. As well, I'm going to hold Alt. You can just move these lines a little bit. Move all of this and also take the front arrow. I'm consistently holding Alt now in order for me to just make this line perfect here and to create a nice line around this edge. Now I normally use a few reference points when I do this blurring effect, like kind of the end of the street, the middle of the street, then another one over here, then as well another one over this side here, and then also as well maybe one going out the frame and just back in around here, also all in a round shape. Okay, so my next point that I want to do now, once I've done adjusted here my blurring line, I'm just going to hold Alt again, move that a little bit up. Also on the front, just scale that a little bit further out. Okay, first of all I want to set this point all the way to the end. Note that was wrong. Now I already created a new blurring line. Let's just go a step back. Okay, don't forget to hold Alt and move this little arrow or this little point. Okay, so I want to move it very close so it's almost no blurring here. And then as well also drag this a little bit further out. And as well use this little arrow over here and move it just a little bit in. We'll see how strong that blurring effect will start. Okay, so that's basically my first blurrier line. Then I'm going to create another one as well from here and just repeat exactly the same step. I'm also going to take this line again and make a nice round curve here. Also going to use this line a little bit. So it's a little bit of a playing thing, back and forth until you got it right. Okay, going up a little bit, also taking this arrow again. And now the very important, try to keep your little arrows here all in the same length or in the same speed distance here, so that your blurring effect is nice and consistent and has a very smooth blurring. Also going to take this point at the top here. Nope, now adjusted again my other blurrer line. I'm going to take this blurrer line, hold Alt and just select, okay, that's a little bit in the way. Hold Alt, it's going to move that all the way up again. Okay, now I can move this. I'm consistently still holding Alt, that's why I can easily jump between these blurring lines. Okay, so created two ready. Let's quickly hit the render button and try what that will give us. So to render that as well, I can go here up to the top and just select my render settings, and I'm going to move this a little bit to the side. So under your render settings, first of all, you can put your output image to where you want to go. I actually just want to put this now onto a background virtual rig. That's going to go into another folder here, where background virtual rig. So all your renders go into one folder and it's easily now to skip back and forth. I'm going to say save that, so that's fine. It should be going into that background directory. You can also set that background up to be a folder on your desktop. Your file type here, I'm going to work with a JPEG. And then as well down here, image resolution, you can choose either between the full resolution, or now if you're working in the software, go for preview. So it's a nice small preview version and it will quickly render, and then also you can quickly jump back and forth and adjust things. Then also option here, I'm going to work with blur. You can also work with curvature, so you can see a little bit better how your blurring lines work. I mostly just work with a blurring effect. Then as well, if you want to show the results after render, tick that box if you want to, yes. Okay, so I'm going to hit preview, and obviously I want to see it now, so tick the box and render that for us, so that will be rendered. And that's now a nice little small version here. So let's also make this a little bit bigger so we can actually see what's happening. Okay, a little bit blurry there. Anyway, so as you guys can see now here at the top, again, a few options to work with that we'll do later. Okay, so as you guys can see down here now, our blurring effect is nice and fast here at the beginning, going a little bit slower all the way around. And as well, we have another nice blurring effect over here, but we kind of still missing these sides over here, and also all of the top side here is affected. I kind of do like the plants over here, but they're also a little bit too fast, so the speed is quite high that we can also still adjust. I'm going to hit X now and just go out of that again. We can also, if we want to, just put our settings here up, our project settings, put that a little bit to the side. And now first of all, again, for our vectors, we have red color, the blur orange color, and selections blue. If you select this, you can also choose a different color for your vectors in case your street is whatever orange, then you can't literally see the blurrings, so then you need to change to a new vector color or new blur color. Then as well, your speed coefficient here is always at 1, but we normally work with half the speed, so 5% or 0.5 or sometimes 0.8. So that gives you another different render effect. Let's quickly change that back to 0.5. And as well here, the vector curves, you can also work with that, blurring subvectors, etc., all the other stuff. I don't want to cover too much about this because I haven't also worked so much with these in the past. I normally just change my speed, adjust all my settings here, adjust my blurring and vector lines, and then I'm happy. The rest I'll do in Photoshop with masks in case I need to do something. If you want to, please have a look. There are a few tutorials from VirtualRig themselves explaining this more in detail. Okay, so let's also now hit render once again. This is now obviously with a new speed, 0.5. Okay, and there you guys can obviously see the effect a little bit now. So it's a little bit slower here, not as fast. Now the nice thing here in the result viewer is that you can actually just go here to the top, select an image back or go a step back, and here you can actually see your previous render. Now this is also because it's obviously all in the same directory. Okay, let's also go here back to the top, select the next one. So this is a little bit slower, looks a little bit better instead of this fast one. So I'm mainly going to work now just with 0.5, maybe even going to take it up a little bit more. Okay, hit X again. I'm going to move it back to 0.8. Set render here once again. Okay, and that's a little bit, that's actually nicer for me. Not too fast, not too slow. Again, the slower one, the faster one. So let's see that at the end. If it's too fast, I'm going to take it down to 0.5. Okay, hit X over here. Let's continue now with our next blurring lines. So I'm going to take the blur tool again and simply just going to create a blur line over here. I'm also going to zoom out a little bit so I can see the frame a little better here, so I can drag the lines out a little bit. Okay, hold Alt again. First of all, I'm also going to just work with the normal hand tool again here at the top. And I'm going to hold Alt. Okay, that basically moves the image around. Let's take V for the move tool. Okay, and I'm pressing Alt now and just making this a nice round shape around here. Okay, again taking this arrow, moving it a little bit over here, trying to keep in the street here. Okay, let's take the project settings down a little bit. Somewhere over here, just moving this again. And like I said, obviously this is a little bit of a playing thing until you have it. Okay, first step that I'm going to do now is again take the speed point here, let me call it speed point, and just put it into the same direction. And one thing that I already can see that I did wrong here is basically that the direction of my blur goes into the wrong direction. So it's obviously with the arrow going into this direction instead of that direction. So I already did a big mistake here. Let's quickly render that, and mostly you will see that when you do this, blurring into the wrong direction, you will see that your image looks completely weird. As you guys can see now, we're obviously blurring now in this direction, and then the second blur line here went into my coming back. So it's completely wrong. You should never do that. So again, for me, I'm going to select this now with the selection tool here, select the blur line. Okay, and I'm just going to delete it. Okay, so we're going to select the normal blur tool again and simply start from here going into this direction. So this is the appropriate and right. Okay, select Alt again. Try to scale this a little bit nicer here. Still holding Alt, taking this point, and also going to move this down a little bit. Okay, and we're moving this point a little bit. So just bear in mind, don't use the wrong blurring direction. It will not work. Okay, I'm also going to take the speed now down a little bit. So try to keep it almost the same like over here. It's a little bit shorter, so we're going to play. Maybe that will even work. And as well, the top one, not a new line. Command Z, go step back, hold Alt, select this point all the way back. Okay, I'm still going to use this a little bit, move it a little bit down, and just up. Okay, so I'm going to hit render once again to see what I'm getting. Okay, and that looks already way better. As you guys can see, it's now going in the same direction, but we still have like a kind of a weird shape over here in there. So maybe that will suit if we create another blurring line in here and maybe another one. So I normally use like 4 or 5 different, almost in like small partitions here, use small lines to create a kind of a best blurring shape. Okay, I'm going to create a new line again over here, also going to the same distance again and same point here, also holding Alt, going to just rotate this a little bit. Okay, moving that last point a little bit over here. And now they're obviously crossing over each other, so I do want to take this line again and just make this a little bit smaller over here. Okay, move this guy in here. Okay, first of all, take this point again, almost to the end. Also, let's see if we can create a little bit of a rounder shape as well, maybe trying to keep it the same as the first ones. Okay, it can also go a little bit more in here. Okay, and also selecting this point, almost the same distance as we have over here again. And now it kind of looks okay for me already. Let's hit render. So for me, I normally create 1 or 2 lines, hit render, then sometimes 4 lines and hit render. Going back and forth helps me to get the best understanding of how I can create a blurring effect here. Okay, and that looks already a lot nicer. Let's also create another one in here. Okay, and I'm also going to select a new blurring line over here. Once again, from the same direction, going up in here. Okay, hold Alt again, and we're going to select the midpoint here, just creating a nice curve. Also going to now, nope, that is the wrong one. That's a little bit difficult. Let's take our last one here. Okay, and place it into there. Almost the same length here at the bottom. Turning that up a bit more. I guess the speed will be probably the same as we have over here. So with hand tool, spacebar, just moving around a bit. I just want to have a final control over this. So I think these are a little bit spaced differently here. So that's why the speed will be a bit different here. So I'm going to take this up a little bit. Also down a little bit. And this one down a little bit. Trying to keep them always in the same position. Okay, still holding Alt, moving this up a little bit. Our last point here a little bit back. This guy as well, all the way back. And I'm just going to take this guy, the last one here, move that a little bit out so we have space there. Okay, and that's kind of my shapes now. Let's hit render as well. See what that will give us. So it's a little bit weird here in front as well. I kind of like this. Logo's nice into the shape there. So let's hit X. I'm going to take this blurring line over here and move that a little bit over. As well with the point down here, just a nice round curve. So like I said earlier, I try to always keep on these on the reference here like your street. So I'm going to take actually this now a little bit out, not being on this reference, and take this guy as well out a little bit. Rotate this a little bit over here. Okay, bring him back in and creating like kind of the same partitions here. Hit render once more. And that looks a little bit better already for me now. As we can see, if we go step back again, you could see here at the front, it's kind of weird. Now if we go step back, we can actually create another one still here. Just trying to create another small vector line. Sorry, a blurring line, just again towards here. I'm going to take this little midpoint slider here again with Alt. all the way out. This guy all to the end, so it's not affecting our blurring at all. And a little bit down for the speed. Let's hit render again. Let's see what that effect will give us. Okay, and that's already a little bit nicer here in the front, as you guys can see, going all the way around. That looks a bit nicer, really round. Here in the front, I'm pretty happy with that as well. One reason as well why I'm taking these lines out that far is that we also have the edge here nice and blurred and not stopping here at the edge. So take these lines all the way out from your image. Okay, so I'm pretty happy so far with this. I just want to still create another vector line that it's not affecting here at the top. So I'm going to hit X again, hold spacebar, just move around a little bit in the image. And now what I normally do is take just the vector tool here and just create a dot. So basically meaning that this is a 0 point, nothing is happening here. If you drag it and create an arrow as well with a point, this obviously means that you're already creating a vector blur here. So Command Z, you don't want to do that. I'm going to just set a few points. Again, already as you guys can see, created a arrow here. You don't want to do that. Okay, create a point, another point. So I'm working with a Continuous 4 tablet or 5 tablet. It's a little bit difficult doing then these blurring points. If you have a mouse, it actually works a little bit easier. Okay, dot over here, dot there. I think it's even a little bit too many dots, but doesn't matter. We just want to have this area not to be blurred. It's further away, and I think it will suit the image a little bit better if it's not blurred. Okay, so as you guys can see now already, this is the effect that we're already getting out of just VirtualRig. No blurring here at the top. A little bit here still from the bushes here, but I think in Photoshop we can take some masks and just Photoshop that out. But overall, I'm pretty happy with this now. A little bit slower here at the back, and then slowly going around as well over here. We can still work with a few simple masks in Photoshop to refine that, but for just creating this effect in VirtualRig, it's an awesome software and it works pretty good and fast as well. Instead of doing this in Photoshop, which will take me ages and it's most probably impossible to do. Okay, I'm going to hit X again. Also now, first time, I'm going to put the project settings away again. I don't need this anymore. I'm going to hit full over here, so I have a full render preview, and then also going to take that now into Photoshop. So I'm going to hit render here again, and that will obviously render it in a high-res version for us. Okay, so as you guys can see now, VirtualRig has finished rendering that for us, also the high quality, and already I can see here's a little bit of a mix-up, so I should actually go back in and just readjust one or two of these blurring lines here, but I'm not going to do that now. The tutorial is just going to get way too long. So as you guys can see in the high version, if you see a mistake, go back already. Okay, here in the top, again, a few options to just view it in your viewer. If you have that adjusted, you can also bring it right into Photoshop. You can open it into the directory in the folder, delete it, and etc. go on. So I'm actually now going to open this in the folder here and just have a look for the biggest version. So I'm going to make a view here, and right at the bottom I can see 2.9 megabytes, so that is the biggest version here for the file. So I'm going to take this file right back into Photoshop. Okay, and we have that now in Photoshop, and we can continue working with this in Photoshop. Okay, and we're also done now in VirtualRig, so I can actually save this project in case I want to go back now and readjust things later. So I'm going to hit the file over here, save as, and background VR on my desktop. Happy with that. Save. Yes, I'm going to replace that for another save. Okay, I can hit X and escape here, and we're back in Photoshop. Okay, so we already opened this image in Photoshop, as you guys can see over here. I can just drag out these lines, and again go back to my tutorial version here. We can switch off just a few adjustments here, go back to the normal background. So again, my previous shot, and then again obviously the adjusted VirtualRig. So I'm going to blend this off, take VirtualRig in here. Okay, we have that. I'm going to also escape this. And in the previous tutorial, in the previous retouch, I already adjusted here my background a little bit with some flowers. I do want to show you guys this as well, so I'm going to take in the original shot as well. So there we go, our original shot is in as well. Just going to rasterize this so we save a little bit on RAM. So let's minimize this. So I'm going to take now VirtualRig, just renaming this here to VirtualRig. Okay, so we have our VirtualRig now, and underneath we also have our original shot. I'm also going to press F for full screen mode, zoom in a little bit to show you guys what I'm actually talking about. As you guys can see now, we do have a lot of plants standing out here, And if we put the VirtualRig on top, you guys can also see that this is just blurring until up to here, and these plants are still standing out. So what I created earlier on my retouching, I just had a normal mask. Then with B on the brush, black foreground color, 100% opacity, I actually just brushed away these plants here a little bit. And on the bottom version, I'm just blending this off. On the normal background shot, I just took my clone stamp tool and also just cloned a little bit in here the mountains back, so we just have a nice clean edge here on the top. Okay, a little bit further, and just being creative here, doing a little bit of cloning. Okay, and a little bit more, just showing you guys really quickly why and how. Okay, so done that, cloned away a little bit of these areas on my original background shot, and then again on my VirtualRig, just created a mask here. I'm just going to disable the mask quickly to show you guys this little effect over here. Then also enable the mask again, and as you guys can see, this looks a little bit smoother and a little bit better if we cut off all these plants a little bit. So also did that for a few other things as well here. Just again the plants over here and over here. Let me show you guys the final results again. There you guys can see a better effect, cutting off all these edges a little bit, and as well trying to not blur this too much. So masking out again these big trees here, having them nice and sharp for the background. So your eye can again lead from the foreground all the way to the back, up and back again. Alright, so let's also quickly show you guys just this again. So the shadow again on top, I took this again from the other reference shot. Then again the car on top. Don't forget also to blur the wheels here of the car as well with radial blur. We can also do a tutorial on that if you guys are interested. Let me know in the comments down below. Yeah, and that's basically all I've done with VirtualRig. Then again for my final shot, a few adjustments just for color correction, some clouds, and again some flares, and just refining the car a little bit and mixing those two plates together with one color grade. Okay, but showing you guys just in a quick tutorial how you can work with VirtualRig and create some really awesome images with VirtualRig. Then as well, also bear in mind the shadow here. If you put this complete image into VirtualRig, you will also have a shadow and car that will be blurred like this. So you will have to create a complex mask to cut out the car. I prefer to shoot this separately, like I said earlier. One car shot and one street shot, and then it's super easy to comp all together to one final image. Alright, so that's basically all for today's Photoshop tutorial. Do let me know in the comments down below what you think of VirtualRig Studio Pro. Then as well, support me with a like, and also, yeah, subscribe for more Photoshop tutorials. I'll see you guys all next week.